Hey guys, what's going on YouTube? This is Team Melonhead coming at you guys with a Monarch deck profile, the latest deck to come out in the structure decks that came out on the 29th. I basically went out, bought 3, and I made my deck. There's nothing hard about it, and it's a great deck. It's right up there with Pepe, and there's nothing wrong with a $30 deck that's super easy to build and play. So with that being said, let's jump into it. We're going to go with monsters first, because monsters always go first. So it's pretty standard for people to run 3 Erebus's, because his grave effect's great to recycle monarchs back to your hand, and then also his shuffle 1 card from hand, field, or grave to deck really helps, especially on first turn. You get rid of their hand, so that way they only have 4 cards to play with instead. And it's just amazing to go with it. And then alongside him they run 3 Ethers. He's great. He specials out another Monarch beside him, so you can go for damage or effects, and then they get sent back to your hand at the end of your turn, so you can tribute them out again to get their effects for the second time. And it's just really good. And then for my Monarchs that I run beside him is 1 Karaz, because you special them out with Ether usually to pop 2 cards, and it's just great. It, again, like the Ectobus hand stop, this shuts down their plays with less cards on the field and stuff. Then I run a Mega Caius, because he banishes cards, and if you tribute him with either Ectobus or your Eidos, he gets to banish 2 cards, so that's 10 times better. And if it's a dark monster that you banish, they take 1,000 damage, so that's always great. And that's all I run for the straight up Monarchs. For the Squires, for tribute fodder and stuff, I run 3 Ideas, because he's the main engine, specials out Eidoses, and then you get to tribute him off for your Mega Monarchs and stuff like that. But for Eidoses, I only run 2, because 3 is really cloggy when you draw into him. And so I only run 2. You can banish him to recycle idea onto the field, search out the second one, so you can loop your plays, get out more Monarchs, overwhelm your opponent with attacks and stuff. And beside them, that's my main engine, but as an add-on to shut down my opponent, I run a BLS, because the attack and the banishing, and I will always have darks and lights in my graveyard with this deck, and 1 Majesty's Fiend to shut down their effects on field and stuff. I probably would play a Vanities if I had one. I traded mine off right before this deck came out, and it sucks now. But to shut down my opponent, I run 3 Effect Veilers and only 2 Maxis. People seem to like to run 3 Maxis, but at locals we had 4 people playing one day of straight up Monarch, so I got into 2 mirror matches, and I didn't run my second yet, and so he got hand clogged with 2, because this deck doesn't special out as much. So it's always got its ups and downs in the mirror, but I only run 2 for mirror matches. I'll probably side out stuff if I get too heavily with it. But that's all I run for monsters, so let's jump into our spell cards. I run a 1-for-1 because it specials out an idea, and then also what's better than 1-for-1 is a Rhoda, because you can just search out idea if you don't get it in hand, and it's 10 times better just to search out than have to send a monster to special him out. But I still would recommend running 1-for-1, because it's amazing for this deck. I play 1 Return of the Monarchs. Some people play none, but I find it's sometimes easier either to send it off with Prometheism, or just pop it for, or shuffle it back into deck for your Prime Monarch draws. So I like it as fodder, also as just to search when I'm tributing out a bunch of monsters after monsters, so it's really good. I play 3 Pantheisms, because main card or spell card, draw 2 by sending 1 to grave, and then you can banish it to get 1 to hand that your opponent picks, so that's really good. And then Idea, when you tribute her, she gets back a banished spell card, so you just keep looping that. But to search for Pantheism, I run 3 Tenacity because that's a general run. It's really good to draw into. You will basically always have a Monarch in your hand with this deck. So then to protect them, I run 2 Marches. Usually people only run 1 or 2, but the 2 I think is pretty consistent. Also, I send it to grave for fodder and then just shuffle it back with my Prime Monarch draw. So it's always a good card to have, but like in mirrors, it's amazing because it stops your opponent from targeting your cards and getting rid of them. So it protects. I run 3 Domain to stop the extra decks of Pepe's. Any Pendulum deck actually this card will shut them down. But in case of Infinity, I run 2 Stormforce. Stormforce is the best card. It's always been a great card. It's lasted time after time, and it's worked for me. Nothing I can really say about what's bad about Stormforth. I mean, it's a wonderful card, tributing off one of their monsters to get yours out, and then you get his effect for a tribute summon. So that's always great. And with Domain's effect to lower your Mega Monarch's level in hand is just amazing because you only have to tribute 1 of theirs, and you don't have to touch your monsters. So that's great. We're going to go into trap cards now. This deck's pretty light on trap cards. I only have 4. I run a Solemn Strike because it stops summons and it's never bad to draw into, really. 1 Escalation to tribute on their turn, or to get out like my Ethras, because they're just great to destroy your opponent's monsters with Ethra to Kuraz to pop 2 on their field during their play. It's just great to shut them down. And then the 2 Prime Monarchs for the draws and the Grave effect to bring back to tribute off. It's just wonderful, works good together, no problem. Side deck is up next. Usually people always, there's half and half. The people that play the extra deck and the people that don't. Not running an extra deck is 10 times easier and cheaper for us, but at the same point, extra deck is better. Because you can get into so many rank 5s with the Prime Monarch spam, and it's just 10 times great. You can run, there was a deck profile that runs a Felgrand and a Heliopolis, which is really good too if you want to get into your 8s and stuff, because I find with Ethra bringing out another, it's usually either Eptabis or a Kuraz. If Eptabis comes out, you can make a right then and there. So, but for side deck, my second strike, a Trap Stun. Trap Stun just works against every now and then, like Satellars that are trap heavy. Bottomless, a Compulse, Time Space, and then my 3rd Prime, because Prime is a great card. If I'm going into like the bringing back to just tribute them off, I'll put in 3, depends on how I'm playing that day. I play a Book of Moon, a Twin Twister to pop pendulums and stuff like that. It's great. My 3rd Stormforth, because it's a wonderful card, especially if they're tributing out like crazy or specialing out like crazy. I'll just use them for my tributes. 1 Regeki, because you have to. Regeki's great. Pendulum Storm for certain occasions against pendulum decks. A Thestalos to pop from hand first turn. It's great, shuts down your opponent's plays, especially when you pick that 1 card that they need. The second, Kuraz, depending upon how I'm playing or who I'm playing. My Mithra. Mithra is great. It gives a token to your opponent that you can then use against them, or use it for your Stormforth, just because you might just want to use one of their monsters and get out of summoning. And then the 3rd Eidos, which is amazing. But again, he's pretty cloggy if you get 3 in hand, so it's not as good as you'd like to think. But that's my deck profile for you guys. So I think it's pretty solid. The Monarch Dex is really good, and everybody's playing it in TCG now. It's amazing. So many people have ideas about it. Keep giving them. If you have any ideas, please leave a comment. Other than that, I'm going to say like our video and subscribe if you guys like what we're doing for Team Melonhead. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys.